really pleased to see you again, Forrest. So if you would come take the microphone.
It's on, right?
No, you have to turn it on.
Good morning, everybody. I always like Major Tom when I put this on, so it's good to see you all. Oh, we're there. We're on we're live. Just a little more background on me. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the community minister at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Bloomington, and my work is in the larger world, and I run a homeless shelter down there. So that's the core of my ministry and work. I served in congregations for about 10 years before going into nonprofit work and doing that, and now going on 15. And just had the 25th anniversary of my ordination back in April, a few months ago. So that's kind of what I said. Sherry didn't fully got me, but I've been coming for, I think, 15 years on and off. So it's been a long journey together, and had to take a little bit of not a break, but reduced time because we were working on a big building project for my new shelter, a new shelter and such. And so that has absorbed a lot of my time, but that's starting to become a little bit easier as we get closer to building and the fundraising part's mostly done. So it's good to be out and about a little bit more. Let us start together with an opportunity for prayer and meditation. In Unitarian Universalist circles, the meaning of these words are yours. And so they come to you in the way that you experience them and you find value in them. One of my favorite phrases about prayer is that we don't necessarily know if we're praying to someone else, but we know that we're at least praying for ourselves. And there's value in recognizing that that's a human response to life, gratitude, concern, love are all prayers in their own way. So let us enter into this time of meditation and prayer together. Holy and loving mystery, joyous wonder, creativity, beauty, spirit of life. We celebrate you today as we come together in this room of history and memory, this room that has served the cause of love for more than a century. That speaks to that very deep religious tradition that says goodness is vital, goodness is essential. Kindness, generosity, wonder, openness, all matter. This quiet space where we remind ourselves that we have physical bodies, and we take note of our opportunity to settle here, to rest, to be at peace and be in connection with all of who we are, to notice what we're feeling, happy, sad, angry, afraid, bored, all the feelings, and to invite them and welcome them, and to go even further and take a step deeper within. Today we think on all the things we're grateful for. A beautiful summer day. The loved ones in our lives that give us strength and nourishment, the mentors who've saved us and challenged us and created us into being. We're thankful for safety when we have it. We're thankful for sustainability when we have it. We're thankful for a great meal, for loving gestures, for acts of justice. May we think today on those in our lives who are struggling with hurt or injury, hardship, fear, war. We offer our prayers to them, our hopes for healing, safety, for opportunity. We think today, offer our wisdom, our prayers, our support to places in the world where leadership is turned stubborn or arrogant or dangerous, including where that's present right here at home. And we set a focus, a goal, an opportunity, a dream that humanity can do more than live with violence and hatred and bigotry. We think on those places where poverty is rampant. We think on those places where war is present. We think on those places where harmony and sustainability are threatened. And we draw our attention today to Israel, and Palestine, and Iran, and the United States, places that are at war, knowing that we wish they would not be. I invite you now, in the spirit of this space and this opportunity to hold up people, places, and things that you wish to hold up, that you wish to offer up a prayer. It could be a prayer of joy, it could be a prayer of gratitude, it could be a prayer of sorrow, it could be a prayer of hope, wishing for something better. Let us call forth the names of people or faces or things that you wish to hold up. Right now, let us take that moment to call forth those names. So. Yes. Let us turn to a brief moment together in silence where we can hold those names or other contemplations that we wish to carry in our hearts. Let us take a moment in silence together. to conclude this meditation together with song. I'll start singing, and as you get it, feel free to join in. It's a very simple song, and we'll go through it a couple times because it's simple enough to repeat. And as you feel like you get it, there are 4 separate lines, so we'll go through those 4 lines and then start again. And by the time we hit that 4th line, you can probably laugh it. Love, 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 love. People, we are made for love. Love your neighbor as yourself. For God is love. Here we go. Love, 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 love. People, we are made for love. Love your neighbor as yourself. For God is love. Love, 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 love. People, we are made for love. Love your neighbor as yourself. For God is love. Once more. Love, 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 love. People, we are made for love. Love your neighbor as yourself. For God is love. Beautiful. Nice job. We haven't sang together in a while, so, well, we sang at the beginning, but you know what I mean. Yeah. As we head into the sermon, and it's called Advice in Uncertain Times, if my base be so bold to offer advice at all. Uncertain times, we know that's true. The advice will be up to you to decide if it's good or not. But, you know, we certainly live in uncertain times, and I don't really need to tell you this, do I? I am reminded of the famous blessing, which is also a curse. May you live in interesting times. And we've got that going for us at least. I'm also reminded of the great quote from The Lord of the Rings. And as you get to know me, you'll know that I'll quote all kinds of the beautiful, nerdy science fiction now and again. But Lord of the Rings, there's this beautiful, amazing quote where the young Frodo speaks out, and he says that I wish it need not have happened in my time. Wish it need not have happened in my time. And the life-giving response from the wisdom keeper in the story, Gandalf, the wisdom keeper of the Lord of the Rings, he said, so do I. And so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. You know, there's, well, you do know, there's a great deal of antagonism in our country, which feels especially high at that moment, but I feel like if this had that same sense a year ago or 5 years ago, we're living in divided times, and those divisions can run along partisan lines for sure, political stuff. There's a great deal of media-driven, both traditional media and social media, media-driven animosity that affects all of us from every political expression, all kinds of archives of space for people to find ways to hate the other. It's pretty widespread, and truthfully, it pays to make us afraid, it pays to make us angry, it pays to make us fight. But I wouldn't say partisanship is the only divide in our nation. It's not, it's one we talk about probably the most, but it's not the only one. I think there's an urban and rural divide, which I think is important for us to be aware of. I think there's a racial divide. Worse, I think there's a religious divide. And something we often don't pay attention to, I think there's a class divide and a growing class divide. Between the people who can own a home, for example, and afford a college education, and those who cannot. between those who buy expensive coffee and those who serve it, between those who rent fancy hotel rooms and those who clean them, between those who create beautiful children and those who care for them. There's a divide. These divisions give rise when divisions happen like this, rancor occurs around these divisions. They give rise to an authoritarian impulse, and which has always been in power to some degree in our nation, but which also has been fought back to some degree. I think that's important to recognize about our nation, is we have a long history of these great divides. We also have a long history of bringing ourselves back together in justice and freedom. One of the greatest examples of this kind of fighting back and bringing back who we are is from the 14th Amendment to our beloved Constitution that we've been talking about in the news a lot lately, that no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. That's an important thing, nor to deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. And that's kind of like a little dry statement, but it's really a remarkable statement of law and policy and values, a step towards that great vision of our country, that we are all created equal with certain unalienable rights, that among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Beautiful stuff. The core of what we aspire to be, so many times with success, and so often with failure. As we navigate these interesting times, I humbly offer you some advice, what I call like 3 sparks in the night. Take these as you will, but they give me hope. And I hope they will for you as well. The first, I think, in these times, how do we navigate these times? Is to think globally, but to act locally. Think globally, but act locally. There is much that is out of our control. You and I can't control that is true. I'm going to say that again. There is much that is out of our control. And we can't control this. We can't control the fact that there is much that is out of our control. It's just true. And however, we do have some extraordinary local power, and it's important to focus where our power is. And I had a therapist years ago who was just an extraordinary man, an amazing man, and he lived with quadriplegia. He was quadriplegic following a horrible car accident, and out of that accident, he built a powerful life and a career for himself, both as a therapist and an author. His name was Dan Gottlieb. Ever is Dan Gottlieb, and he told me about a dream that he had in one of our therapy sessions. He told me about this dream, and in this dream, he was talking with God, and God gave him a tiny piece of land. He said, "Here, this tiny piece of land like that. Here, this is for you." And it was so tiny, it was barely a speck between his fingers, and my therapist in the dream was really frustrated by this. Is this all I can handle? This tiny piece of land? Aren't I worthy of more? And he woke up frustrated at God's gift. It was too small for his big life. But over time, he came to live into that dream and to live into that gift and recognize this little piece was his to take care of. And he understood that his job wasn't to try to get too big, because he knew that if he did, he would miss the impact that it could make. Finding the space that was his and working to take it and improve it. I think this might be the single biggest anxiety reducer I can think of. Own your peace. It will be tiny. That's okay. Own your peace. It will be tiny. That's okay. our local communities are our tiny piece. What can we accomplish in those communities? This is an extraordinary opportunity, I think, right now to make our local communities what they need to be. We may not be able to always control what's happening nationally, but we can do so much to make our local communities what they need to be. So think globally, act locally. Secondly, I call on us to remember a very key phrase of social justice, that without justice, there is no peace. No justice, no peace. So that's the slogan that goes. You know, perhaps the most famous words that Martin Luther King used to address this comes from his letter to from the Birmingham jail. And a remarkable piece of writing, one of the most important American pieces of writing ever issued. You haven't read it in a long time. It's an incredible piece of writing that's worth reading again and again. And he wrote these words from jail after reading a letter from some local white ministers who had expressed sympathy for his cause, but challenged his nonviolent tactics of resistance. So they said they agreed with what he was doing. They just didn't like that what he was doing was stirring up trouble, basically. And King wrote, and remember, these words may be tough to hear for some of us. They're strong words. But he said, I must confess that over the past few years, I've been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I've almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizens counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice. I think it is so important to remember this in these times. Please don't forget this. Peace is not the absence of conflict. Suppressed indignity will eventually come out, always, 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 and it often emerges as a roar rather than a whisper. That suppressed indignity emerges. You know, I am the son and the grandson of alcoholics. I was trained early to keep the peace. That was something I learned from a very young age. I was the peacemaker in my family, the one who kept the calm. And truthfully, that could be a gift at times. I'm in many ways grateful for that gift. It's probably why I survived running a homeless shelter for 15 years. But I also know what it is to live in a world where calm is a weapon to keep us away from the truth. I've spent much of my adult life trying to break free of this fear of disturbance while seeking to live a more honest life. So I know very directly that we have to engage constantly our tendency to push crisis into the corners of our community and also our very own souls. I don't want any of our communities to be known because we pretend all is well, but because we engage what is unwell, but because we choose to engage what is unwell, and we find a way through. So no justice, no peace. Think globally, act locally. No justice, no peace. Last and final point of advice, embody the good. Embody the good. I often look to the heroes of our age for inspiration and sustenance. Heroes like Dorothy Day, the founder of the Catholic Worker Movement, which is a pacifist movement that provides direct aid for the poor, while also engaging in nonviolent direct action on their behalf. She told us, I really only love God as much as I love the person I love the least. I really only love God as much as I love the person I love the least. Hard but powerful lesson. And another person who is one of my heroes is Sophia Skoll, who, Sophie Skoll, sorry, who's part of the White Rose movement. And she was arrested and executed for distributing writings opposing the evils of Nazism in Nazi Germany. You know, no one, she was arrested and then executed within just a few days, and no one knows what, she was arrested, theoretically tried, and then executed, and no one knows what Sophie's exact last words were, but she was reported to have said, somebody, after all, had to make a start. What we wrote and said is also believed by many others. They just don't dare express themselves as we did. This is amazing. It is such a splendid sunny day, and I have to go. It is such a splendid sunny day, and I have to go. The words that she said at her end. It also may not surprise you that one of my heroes is Mr. Rogers. So many of us in this room either grew up or raised as children who grew up watching Mr. Rogers. We remember Won't You Be My Neighbor and the neighborhood of Make Believe and the cardigans and sneakers and the trolley and picture, Daniel Tiger and more. Fred Rogers did something remarkable for us. He taught us that we were special and lovable and capable of loving. He taught us to wonder and to appreciate. He taught us it was okay to feel, safe to be angry or sad or afraid. He taught through his actions and through his stories and through his songs. It's you I like. It's not the things you wear. It's not the way you do your hair, but it's you I like. Where you are right now, way down deep inside you. Not the things that hide you, not your toys. They're just beside you. But it's you I like. Every part of you. Your skin, your eyes, your feelings. When old or new. I hope that you'll remember, even when you're feeling blue, that it's you I like, it's you yourself, it's you I like. Mr. Rogers reminded us how to find hope. He famously said, when I was a boy and would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. But there's a Mr. Rogers quote, which is less known, but I find even more powerful, and it so speaks to who this man was. He said, try your best to make goodness attractive. Try your best to make goodness attractive. Embody the good. Think globally, act locally. No justice, no peace. Embody the good. My friends, I thank you so much for having me here today, for your time and for your attention. If you find wisdom in these things today, please leave with these 3 affirmations to inspire you, to remind you to carry you forward. Think globally, act locally, know justice, know peace, and embody the good. Hallelujah. And amen.